Welcome to the third episode of Draft Season. I'm your host, Josh Moore, and last week I said I was going to watch some tight end film, and I did. I watched a lot of different tight ends, and I was very, very impressed. This is a very underrated tight end class. I really enjoyed watching these guys. But let's get started. So first on my list, I have Tyler Warren. I think right now he's the consensus on the number one tight end in the draft. He's 6'6", 257 pounds, and is supposed to run a 4.68 40, which is pretty good for a tight end. He had 98 receptions, 1,158 receiving yards, 8 receiving touchdowns, and he's just overall really fun to watch. He's my number one tight end as well. I think he's got really good hands. He was really fun to watch in the playoffs. He made some really nice catches. He did have a couple drops. It wasn't enough for me to not like him. He just has it. I think he can be that guy for the future. I think he can be a top tight end in the league. I think he's going to be fun to watch in the league. He's got good hands. He's a good route runner, and he does have some of those spectacular catches, which you love to see. But next on my list, I should also say, well, I think last week I mentioned my grading system, which is based off of the Pro Football Focus, I believe. I've been using it for a little bit now. But anyway, a 10 is a generational talent. A 9.5 to 9.9 rating is a blue chip prospect. A 9.0 to 9.4 rating is a immediate impact prospect. An 8.5 to an 8.9 is a year one starter / potential high end player. And then 8.0 to 8.4 is a low end starter / potential impact player. Then 7.5 to 7.9 is a high level backup / potential starter. 7.0 to 7.4 is role player / potential contributor. 6.5 to 6.9 is high level developmental prospect. 6.0 to 6.4 is a backup / they're draftable. Then 5.0 to 5.9 is a pure upside project, and then 4.0 to 4.9 is a backup undrafted free agent with roster potential, and then 3.0 to 3.9 is just a training camp body who will be there, but won't do anything spectacular. So I think right now I have Tyler Warren as an 8.9 as my best tight end. That's a year one starter, potential high end player. I think he does have that potential to be one of the best tight ends in the league. Like I said earlier, this is a really good tight end class, really underrated. You don't have Brock Bowers in this draft class. Like last year's tight end draft class was Brock Bowers and then a couple okay guys, and then the rest were not good at all. This year it's a lot of really good guys, but you don't have that elite prospect like Brock Bowers. I think these guys are great, really good, can be great players. But I've never seen this many tight ends that could be that good. So moving on, Colston Loveland from Michigan. He's 6'5", 245 pounds, and supposed to run a 4.7 40. He's a junior, and last season he had 56 receptions, 582 receiving yards, and 5 receiving touchdowns. I really enjoyed watching Colston play. He's a really good blocker and has very consistent hands. I didn't see any like big time catches like Tyler Warren. He catches what he's supposed to. and that's all you can ask for a tight end. I think he's very consistent. I think he can also be a great tight end in this league. I have him at an 8.8, so again, year one starter. I think he can be a year one starter and a potential high end player. I have him as my number 2 ranked player, and I think most experts also have him as number 2, if not number 1. But usually Tyler Warren is 1 in all the things I've seen. My third best player is a little bit of a hot take here. Jake Briningstool. I was not expecting much going into this, but I came out a huge fan. I don't even remember watching him at the Senior Bowl at all, but watching his film is really fun to watch. He's a slot receiving tight end. He's going to be a pure vertical threat. So he could be fun to watch in like a Bengals or Dolphins offense, which is purely passing. I think he'd fit those very well. He's 6'6", 240 pounds. He's kind of light. He's on the lighter end. And then he's supposed to run a 4.740. I am excited for the combine. This is going to be fun. And he was a senior this year. And he had 49 receptions, 530 receiving yards, and 7 receiving touchdowns. Like I said, he's a pure vertical threat. He is an okay to not great blocker. He's got pretty good hands. He's a good route runner. And he's going to be, like I said, he's going to be in a really pass-heavy offense. From the games I watched from him at Clemson, he wasn't really asked to pass block that much. He did run block okay. I want to say he had 1 concentration drop that I can remember. But he had a really nice, spectacular grab, one-handed against Georgia, which is one of the top defenses in the country every year. But that was really fun to watch. And then moving on to number 4. My number 4 tight end is Mason Taylor. He is usually going to be, I've seen him as around 5th or 6th best tight end. He's my number 4. I should have mentioned that Jake Briningstool he's not that highly rated. I'm going to have to go back and watch the Senior Bowl footage because I don't really remember it all. He's usually ranked, I want to say probably like 7th, 8th best tight end. So that's my hot take for the tight end class, I guess. So Mason Taylor, I think I talked about him last week at the Senior Bowl. But I think he was one of my most impressive tight ends there. Probably my favorite tight end there. He's going to be 21 years old. He's 6'5", 255 pounds, and is supposed to run a 4.6440, which is pretty fast. And then, like I said earlier, he has football genes. His dad played in the NFL for a bit. Over the season, he had 55 receptions, 546 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. I think I watched a couple of his games, and he was just a really solid tight end. I enjoyed watching him. He had good hands. He was a good route runner. He was a good blocker when he had to be. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching him. I want to say I think he can be a tight end who can play in pretty much every system, unlike Briningstool, who's going to be a pure receiving tight end. Also, I should say these rankings are they could be changed at any time. I'll probably, even after this podcast, I'll probably watch some more tight end film. I just really enjoy watching these guys, and it's always good to watch as much film as possible. My next, after Mason Taylor, my fifth best tight end is Terrence Ferguson from Oregon. I wasn't really expecting too much. I haven't really watched him that much. I've watched a lot of Oregon film, but for mostly Jordan James and Tej Johnson, which I've noticed him a little bit, and he's been solid. Nothing incredible, but I really liked him. Before I ended up watching a full game of just him, I watched him against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, and he looked really good. Ohio State's edges were just all over the place all game, and I thought Terrence Ferguson really impressed in his blocking. He was able to really hold up on the edge when he needed to. When he had Jack Sawyer and JT in his face, I thought he held up really well. He's 6'5", 255 pounds. Like I said, he's from Oregon. He was a senior. He had 43 receptions this year, 591 receiving yards, and then 3 receiving touchdowns. He's 22 years old and is supposed to run a 4.73 40. Like I said, a really good blocker, and then also very consistent hands. I don't remember seeing any drops really. He caught everything that he should have. I think I've only really watched 1 or 2 of his games, so maybe more drops, maybe more spectacular catches will come up with the more film I watch. But that's what I saw so far. But I really enjoyed watching him block. But from what I've seen, he's the 5th best tight end. And then moving on to my next tight end, this could be a hot take. The consistently mocked 3rd best tight end is Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green, so one of these group of 5 guys from the MAC. He's 6'4", so a little undersized, 230 pounds, still undersized, and then is supposed to run a 4.62 40, which I thought he looked... I'm pretty sure last week or the first week I said something about him where I just wasn't a big fan, and he just looked slow on film. I watched some more games of him, and he did not look as slow as what the first game I watched, which I was glad. I'm really happy to see these group of 5 guys play well. But I watched him play against Penn State. He was an okay blocker, and he was open a lot, targeted. Since he's on a group of 5 team and he's an NFL prospect, he's going to get lots of touches. I want to say he had 11 touches in the game I watched. I watched him play against Penn State, which was one of the best defenses in the country. My number 1 player in the country, Abdul Carter, was their edge this year. But I thought he was an okay blocker. He's average speed. He's not that fast. Tight ends usually aren't that fast anyway. But for a guy who's a little undersized, I would have liked him to be a little bit faster. I just didn't think he was that fast in the game film. But he is undersized, but he plays like a big body guy. He has run through some defenders, and I think he can be a really good tight end in this league. Oh, and I just remembered that I haven't said my rating of any of these other guys. So Colson. So I don't remember if I said Colson Loveland, but Colson Loveland was an 8.8. A year 1 starter, potential high-end prospect, and then Jake Brenningstool 8.7. Mason Taylor 8.7, Terrence Ferguson 8.7, and then Harold Fannin Jr. I have as an 8.6. So all I think can be first-year starters, and I think they can all be first-year starters and potential really high-end guys. I really like this tight end class. I'm a big fan. Anyway, moving on to my number 7 tight end is Gunnar Helm, the tight end from Texas. He's 6'5", 238 pounds, so a little undersized on the weight side, but average height for a tight end. And then it's supposed to run a 4.75 40. I thought he looked a lot faster than that. Like I said, he's from Texas. He was a junior this year. I want to say that he's usually the consensus number 4 tight end, which I think he can be. Like I said, I really like this tight end class. I think a lot of these guys are interchangeable and could be, like, I think Mason Taylor, he could maybe be the 3rd best guy, or maybe he's the 7th best guy. I really like this class. I don't think you can go wrong. If you need a tight end, this is the year to take one. Even if you don't, if you just need depth, I think this is the year to take a tight end. But he had 58 receptions, 744 receiving yards, and 7 receiving touchdowns. He did go to the Senior Bowl. I don't really remember him there, so I'll have to go back and watch. He's 22 years old. I thought he was a good blocker, had good hands, and surprisingly really good after the catch. I remember, I want to say I watched his Georgia game, and he had a really nice move against one of the corners, and was able to get past. But yeah, I like Gunnar Helm. I have him as an 8.6, just like Fanta Jr. I think he can be a really good guy. Just realized I haven't been saying what rounds I think these guys can go to. I think Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland can be late first or early second guys. And I think that's mostly where they're mocked right now. But the Jake Brenningstool, I think he's being mocked around 4th or 5th, so that could be a big steal for one of those pass heavy teams. I think he's going to fall, but personally, I think he's worth a 2nd to 3rd round pick. Brenningstool, Taylor, Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson, Harold Fanta Jr., Gunnar Helm. I would be very comfortable taking him in the 2nd or 3rd round, especially the 3rd round. But moving on to my 8th best tight end is Elijah Arroyo. I mentioned him at the Senior Bowl last week. I think I said that I wasn't too big of a fan of him. From the game I watched, he had a couple drops that I didn't like at all, but looked really good in the Senior Bowl. But I watched a couple different games of his, and I came away. I think he can be a low end starter, and potential real starter. But he was a really good route runner, had okay hands, and was an okay blocker. And he is usually the 5th best tight end, I want to say, is what he's usually mocked around. But he's 6'4", 245 pounds, so a little short on the short side, a little on the light side. Supposed to run a 4.69 40, so pretty average for a tight end. He had 35 receptions, 590 receiving yards, and 7 receiving touchdowns. And he had Cam Ward as his quarterback at Miami, which I think next week I'm going to talk about quarterbacks. I think I'm going to go through and watch a lot of quarterback film, top 2 quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. I'll be excited to watch them, and then also see some of the sleepers like Jackson Dart. Anyway, back to tight ends. He's 21 years old, so he's on the younger side, so he can be a good developmental guy. But I have him as an 8.5, so a low-end starter slash potential impact player. I think he can be a real tight end 1, but I don't think he's quite there yet. I want to say, yes, that is the last of the really good tight ends. So that's 8 tight ends I would be very comfortable with drafting in this draft. I think I should also say I'd take Arroyo probably 3rd or 4th round. 8 tight ends that I would be comfortable drafting in the first 3 rounds. That's pretty insane. I think all these guys can be really good in the league. and I'm excited to see how these guys' careers play out. But I have 3 lower end tight ends that I watched that I didn't like. So the first one was Pittsburgh tight end Gavin Bartholomew. I think I mentioned him last week because I thought his name was funny. But anyway, he's 6'5", 250 pounds. Went to Pittsburgh. He's a senior. He had 38 receptions, only 322 receiving yards, and 4 receiving touchdowns. He's 6'5", 250 pounds, so good height, but okay weight. Supposed to run a 4.7840, so a slower time. He's just not a guy I'd be comfortable with as in my team. He had a couple drops. He looked lost out there blocking. If I don't like him, then I probably won't draft him. I'd say he's draftable. He can be a backup. I think he'd be a fine backup, I guess. I have him as a 6.2, which would be backup / draftable in that 6.0 to 6.4 range. Yeah, I thought he was okay at best. Then on to my number 10 tight end is Bryson Nesbitt. Actually, I don't think I agree with that. I'm going to switch this real quick. Number 10 tight end is Luke Lackley from Iowa. I've seen him mocks like 4th or 5th round. I think it's mostly because he went to Iowa, and Iowa tight ends are known for being pretty good in the league, like George Kittle and Sam Laporta, just off the top of my head. He's 23-year-old, so kind of an older guy. He's 6'6", 247 pounds. Went to Iowa and was a senior this year. He had 28 receptions and 231 receiving yards, and then 0 receiving touchdowns. He's supposed to run a 4.2. That's crazy. 4.7240. And he just didn't have great hands. He looked really slow out there and wasn't a great blocker. I have him as a 6.0. So a really low-end backup / draftable player. So like a 6th or 7th round guy. Just could be on your bench and can be a body when you need him. And then number 11 is Bryson Nesbitt from North Carolina. He's 6'5", 235 pounds, so on the lighter side. And it's supposed to run a 4.640, which is pretty good for a tight end. He's supposed to be a slot receiving tight end. He just, from what I saw, he wasn't that fast, but looked like an okay route runner. He had decent hands. I think he caught mostly everything that went his way, like easy balls. Didn't have any great catches or anything, but he can be a depth piece, just like the rest of these guys that I said, like Lackley, Bartholomew, and Nesbitt. Those 3 guys can be okay backups in the league. 22 years old, and that is the last of the tight ends that I have watched this week. Now I didn't watch some guys I didn't watch. I pretty much watched everyone in the top 10. I didn't watch the Syracuse tight end. I'm going to butcher his name. Oronde Gadsden II. He's another one of these slot receiving tight ends. This guy should be fun to watch. He's supposed to run a 4.540. That is 6'5", and then on the lighter side, 236. I didn't watch this guy, but I think this is going to be next on my watch list. This guy could be really fun. I'll probably watch a couple more tight ends and then report back next week before I start talking about the quarterbacks. And then I also didn't watch Notre Dame's Mitchell Evans, 6'5", 260 pounds, senior. Looks like a average tight end. Supposed to run a 4.76 40, 6'5". He's 6'5" and 260 pounds, so normal tight end size. Notre Dame tight ends are usually pretty good. I haven't really heard anything about him, so I think he'll probably be an okay, decent guy, backup guy. But haven't watched him at all, so I don't know anything yet. And then another guy, I'm going to butcher his name, Brant Kuth. I don't even know how to say that. Tight end from Utah. 4'6", 40. Shorter guy, 6'2", and then I like how I say shorter guy for these guys when I'm 5'10". And then 236 pounds, so on the lighter side. I say on the lighter side, 236. It's funny. This guy should be fun to watch. Never mind. He's 25 years old. Lord. I don't know if I'll watch that guy then. That's a really old prospect age. But I think that's all the guys. Those 2 or 3 guys that I want to watch. For the tight ends. Yeah. So that was my tight end ranking. I'm excited to watch a couple more of these guys. A lot of these guys were pretty fun to watch. Like I said, 8 tight ends I'd feel comfortable drafting in the first 3 rounds. That's pretty insane. I think last year I had 2 tight ends that I would be comfortable with. Of course, Brock Bowers, I was comfortable taking him top 5, really. He's great tight end in the league. He's like the number 1 fantasy tight end now. I didn't even think about this for Dynasty. I just started getting into Dynasty fantasy football, which, if you don't know, is basically fantasy football, but you keep your team every year, and instead of drafting drafting NFL players every year, you draft prospects every year, which is right up my alley since, of course, I have this show, Draft Season. But a lot of these tight ends, you could probably grab these guys in the later rounds. I think Brenningstool, assuming he goes to a good fit like the Dolphins or Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, and trying to think if there's any other fits that he'd be in. I'm probably forgetting a really pass-heavy offense that I think he'd fit good in. I should talk about fits more. I think I'll do that to end this show. Who do I think this guy could be good in? I think he could be good in Houston. I just want to see a new tight end in Houston. I'm not a fan of. I'm forgetting his name. What's his name? I'll find it. I swear. Dalton Schultz. I've never been a fan of his. I think he has a lot of receptions, but that's just because he's targeted a lot. He just has a lot of drops. A lot of situations where he could have the ball, where you could hold on to the ball and move the chains, is just not helpful to a young quarterback like C.J. Stroud. So I'd like to see Tyler Warren on. Oh, now I'm really getting into it. Where have I seen him mocked? I'm looking back at this Daniel Jeremiah mock draft, which I think I talked about last week, I think. And he has him going as high as pick number 7 to New York for the Jets. I really like Warren. I don't know if he's worth a top 10 pick. Watch him have a great season, prove me wrong. But that'd be an interesting fit in New York. The fit I've seen a ton is Colson Loveland to the Chargers, which just makes sense. Chargers need a tight end, and Jim Harbaugh gets his guy back. Of course, being the old Michigan coach and having a Michigan player come there, who is definitely worth a first-round pick. I'd like to see. I don't know if he'd fall there, but I'd like to see Tyler Warren in a Houston Texans uniform. Maybe the Broncos. I think they could be a team that could use a tight end. But I think they could go with a guy like Mason Taylor, or Terrence Ferguson, or any of these guys really. I think this is the year. Like I said, this is the year to, if you have question marks at tight end. So like the Chiefs will probably take a tight end. I could see them taking Harold Fannin Jr. Or maybe if the Chargers pass on Loveland, which I don't know if they will, I could see the Chiefs taking a tight end in round 1. But I could also see them taking a guy like Gunnar Helm. But I think the Chiefs will definitely draft a tight end to draft Travis's replacement. And I think the Falcons could use a tight end. Kyle Pitts has just not cut it, and I think any of these guys could step up in this offense. Of course, I'm a big Michael Penix Jr. fan, so I'd be very excited to see any of these guys be with Penix in that new offense next year. It'd be interesting to see Ferguson go to Atlanta. I don't know how well that. I don't really like that fit that much, but I could see I like Harold Fannin Jr. to Atlanta. To be honest, I really like that fit. Now, the more that I think about it, I think that can be a great pick and be a great guy for Mike. But I think we're about out of time here. It's been a lot of fun. I got to watch a lot of good guys this week. Like I said, really underrated tight end class. I'm excited to see how these other classes are. Since I got to watch a good class this week, I'll watch a bad class next week. I'll watch quarterbacks just to even it out. Can't make myself too happy, but I'll watch quarterbacks next week, from Cam Ward to Curtis Rourke. I'll try to watch most of the quarterbacks entered in this draft. But anyway, thank you for listening to this week's episode of Draft Season, and I will see you guys next time.